it's really interesting hearing you talk about the aesthetics too. That like a clean lines, nice fit, rougher style, a little bit more. There's more wiggle room.
Part of going through brewing in the process is not just we're drinking this tea and that's it. Using tea, we're using ceramics that we enjoy, that we like looking at, that we think is beautiful, that we appreciate. It's very much part of the experience. It's not just the liquid in the cup.
Welcome to JagaVision. I'm your host, Nyberg, and today I have a guest joining me this is the second time that Jonah from Bitterleaf Teas has joined. Hello, Jonah. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Maybe we could start off with just a reminder, I guess, for those who haven't watched that first episode of who is Jonah, who's Bitterleaf Teas?
Well, I'm half of Bitterleaf Teas, I guess. But I run that with my partner. We're a tea and teaware company, I guess, based in Kunming, China. So we've been doing this for about 8 years now. So 8 years, we source mostly pu'er, but a few other teas from all over China, as well as a focus on ceramics from Jingzhen and Yixing and Tianshui.
Sweet. You're originally from this neck of the woods, right? You're from Vancouver, was it?
More or less. Well, that's kind of my second home would be Vancouver right now because that's where my brother's family is. But I was raised in Nova Scotia in Halifax.
Okay. But
so on the ocean, but different ocean, but still Canada.
And you guys moved to kind of source teas to open up a tea shop, though. You were originally going to open up something in Canada, right? And then you were like, "This is awesome. Why would we open up a tea shop in Canada when we could just hang out here?" I always tell people about your project. I find it incredibly inspiring.
I mean, when we came here, we didn't know what we were going to do. We kind of just moved to move. But then after we got to Kunming, after we were in Yunnan, then really fell in love with pu'er. And from there, it was just like, oh, this is great. We should share this. But like you said, it was originally, let's open up a tea shop back home and we'll bring it back and all that. But we started by just selling online, and that kind of took off. And it's a comfortable life. We like it quite a bit. It's a good place to live. It's comfortable in terms of weather and everything. So we just ended up not leaving, I guess.
And just hanging out. Yeah, I see images of people visiting you in your workshop, and you making tea for people, and there being this kind of really interesting. Yeah, I know that if we ever find our way over there, I'd love to meet up for an in-person tea session. It would be
great. Love to have you.
Before we get started, though, maybe you can guide me through how you suggest I make a raw pu'er. I have one of your gaiwan here. If I was gonna, I don't know how big it is, but if I fill it up with water,
maybe 150 ml, 100 and I think that one.
I think so. It keeps going. I think we're if brimming to the top, it's 180 grams of water. So 180.
Okay. Yeah.
If I that's brimming to the top. That's like we probably it would be like more one of your larger ones. I think I was getting this for sharesies. But it's the one I have. The other one I have that I really like. I was using it every day, and I managed to do this wonderful move where I picked up my tray with everything on it, and the lid slid off, and it was the one with the cattail on the lid. I was like, very sad, but it broke. But I have a friend who's going to do a repair on it. He said he's going to try and do a stapler repair. So,
Oh, nice. If you have a piece that can be repaired fairly well, sometimes that's kind of like a value-added thing,
Totally.
These days, there's the masters that do that. Once the piece is repaired, they'll sell it for even more than it was before because now it has a certain element. I guess a wabi-sabi element or whatever to it.
I'm into it. I love it. I do like the repaired look. I think it's cool. So I'm really looking forward to getting it back. But for now, I have this.
Nice.
It's like I can't remember what it was called when I purchased it, but it's like kind of got a crazing on it, and it's almost a cream color gaiwan, very soft lines, kind of curvy. I love it. I think it's a beautiful gaiwan. What do you call these on your site?
I think we named the series Lucid. So these are all they're made in Jingzhen by someone from he's originally from Chaozhou. So he does a lot of like the stuff for like brewing dancong. But this is one of the larger gaiwan, so it's suitable for any tea, especially for sharing a little more because it's a bit bigger. But that I think it uses a plant ash glaze, so that kind of creates that creamy color. And then yeah, have some of them can craze, some of them don't. I think the one that you got is the one that crazes inside.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All those like kind of mini looking, the purposeful cracks.
Yeah,
Do
it starts to tell a story.
so I have some. I was saying some 2017 Boulang. I was gonna just. I've weighed out some, but how much do you think I should put in to have a nice cup? Just out of curiosity, I love to just make tea the way that folks I have guests on. How would you make this tea if you were gonna be like, okay, here's a raw pu'er? Like, what would be a nice way to gram wise for 150? Yeah.
For 150 ml gallon, I would say about 9 grams of tea should be fine. I think if my math is correct.
So I'm gonna try and see then if I have 8 or 9 grams here. I think I have 7. Okay, I'll get a little bit more.
Yeah, we usually use about 1 gram per 18 milliliters or so. Yeah, depending on taste, 8 to 9 grams is probably fine.
Okay, 11 grams. You think is that too ambitious?
That might Boulang. That might be a bit intense. The tea's from 2007.
It's a lot younger than that. 2017.
Oh, 2017. I don't know why I thought 2007.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going for it. Well, actually, no. I asked your opinion, and then I'm not even listening. It was.
It's fine. No. But that's.
What
What
was it again? 8 or 9? You said.
Yeah, I'd say 8 or 9. But to be honest, it's like my opinion is really just my opinion. There's no hard and fast rules. It's kind of how I brew, how I recommend usually. But I think it's good for people to try brewing with more on your own if you want. You might enjoy that, or sometimes people want less. It's too bitter. So I give recommendations for things, or for let's say teapots, like what clay should I use with this tea, or what's this what tea is suitable for this clay. There's guidelines, but they really are just guidelines. I try not to stick too hard and fast to those, because even in our own house, like we'll have teapots from various clays, and we don't stick to just one type all the time. We don't necessarily think, oh well, this is Zinni, so I'm only going to use it for this tea, or I'm only going to use it for these and not that. I think it's good to experiment with that and try and decide for yourself what tastes best and let that guide you.
I love these sessions because I look at them as like a learning opportunity. I can like, because we get kind of in our own sort of comfortable way of like how we make tea for ourselves or for our guests, and then it's just so nice to ask, kind of even roughly how another person might make tea. I had a really good time visiting the carpenter who put together my bar here, and I asked him how he makes matcha, and he's kind of shy about it. I'm like, no, I really want to see. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, I want to know how you make matcha at your shop. He's like, okay. And he like grabs this pot, fills it up with some milk, throws some matcha on it randomly, and just like swirls it around in his pot. And I'm just like, okay, this is hilarious. This is great. It's fun. I like to know, like I had, some people are like weighing everything and controlling every particular variable and get really into, your ratios. And then other people are more fluid, might be a.
Yep. Yeah, fluid. That's the right word. Yeah.
It's cool. I enjoy it. I know for myself, if I'm left to my own devices, I get really into, like I don't know if you can see from there, but my tray sits on a scale, so I had made so that the whole tray is like on an Asaya scale, and then I can then weigh my water and weigh my tea, and I love that. I find some sort of, I don't know, really strange joy in that, but I'm just a very strange person, so that's just how it goes.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So okay, how would you find somebody like this who made this lucid gaiwan? Were you just walking around in sort of an area where you found you like the pottery from, and you're like, oh, that one is particularly awesome? Or are you networking to people, or like, how do you I'm so curious how these relationships build for you, and I'm sure there's a variety of ways they happen, but yeah.
It is a variety of ways, just like what you said. I mean, you kind of summed up two of the main ways. This particular person we found through a friend. They recommended. They thought, oh, they're I think so. It's someone who sells domestically in China. So it was a friend that we always visit when we go there, and she was selling this guy's work, and she's like, oh, it's really good. You should meet him. Like, oh, and she's great too, because she'll just hook us up with people, and she's not asking for anything in return. She just genuinely, she likes their stuff and sells it herself, and she wants us to be able to do the same. So then we, we'll meet them, and yeah, we loved it too. We drank tea with him for a few hours, and just really liked it, and used different pieces of his, and that's when we decided to pick it up. But that was through a friend. But a lot of times, yeah, it is just you. I mean, Jing to Gen especially it's quite easy, if I'm being honest, because there's all these fairs and markets and things like that. Well, easy to a certain extent, because you go to these two, and now it's become such a popular place that it can be saturated with a lot of junk, just straight up junk, things that are not even teaware, ceramics. It's just kind of when things get popular in China, it kind of gets overwhelming. It used to be a little bit easier in that you go to creative fairs where they really specifically focus on, it's a lot of teaware and things like that. But then more tableware gets popular, so then it's a little less teaware, it's more coffee, so we're finding more mugs and things like that, which we also like. It's fine. It doesn't fall into the gongfu tea that we sell quite as much, even though we still use it for that too, sometimes using it for grandpa brewing or something.
This is the third time this term has come up in this week. I didn't have the bar was humming, and a couple customers were talking about grandpa style. What is grandpa style? I heard this language, and I have no idea what they're talking about. What is grandpa brewing? What is grandpa style?
Who coined it? I think it was some I can't remember the name of the blogger, but some popular blogger within like the pu'er world. I think he coined it, if I'm not mistaken. But now it's just widely used, and it's just, I mean, it's the I guess the antithesis, or the main other option besides using a gaiwan and all that. It would be just taking a set amount of tea, just dropping in a thermos or a big mug or whatever, and just filling with hot water, drinking, keep refilling it.
Okay.
And for us, like, grandpa brewing is quite common. It could be, a lot of times this is the security guard or the taxi driver, or like a lot of workers in China. Everywhere you go, you'll see people are always drinking tea, but they're not sitting down and doing this because they have a job to do, or they have they have somewhere to be or something, so they can take it in a little thermos. I mean, I do it all the time too. If I'm heading out the door, just take a thermos, throw some tea in there. And
okay, so that's interesting. So this is kind of like somebody and those are lovely connections when you find somebody who's just like, hey, I just want to share. I have a teapot that visually looked quite nice, but personally, when I use it, it's a little bit heavy. It's kind of like, it feels really thick in the base. It's also almost too perfect, like it's been machined. And there's a lot of things that I wouldn't know without having it in my hands. I love when I go onto your webpage, because I can go and you put how long it takes to drain something out of the pot. You put the mass of the teapot. You have a story. One of the teapots that I just kept on looking at. I just want to buy it so bad, and I don't know why I don't. But I don't normally like critters on my on my teaware. But you have this one with a rabbit on it. It's like garden or tree. Or
oh
something.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
It's made. It's like this one kind of, but it's a rabbit. Yeah. Friends of the Forest. Yeah.
Friends of the Forest. I don't know why, but it just it really I was looking at it like, this is really awesome. And but then I get this fear, and then I'm like, no, wait a minute. What is your partner's name again?
Kumi.
So Jonah and Kumi are probably going to have an amazing, it's going to be great. It's going to be lightweight, or it's going to be, even if it's heavy, it's going to look and feel really carefully put together. But I think you have to buy from somebody a number of times before you start to, do you have a way of getting around that? Do you have a way of looking at a photo and just a nice presentation online and being able to feel good about what you're purchasing, or have you ever started a relationship that way?
No, that it is a bit tough. I mean, for the teaware here, if let's say we do find something that we haven't seen in person, and we want to try it out, it's quite easy here, fortunately, to send something back. So if we, I don't think it happens very often, but maybe we try something and we get it and we realize, oh, this doesn't, I actually don't like the way this sits or something. Then you can send it back very easily here. It costs very little to ship. Just make sure it doesn't break, I guess. But other
Right.
than that, it's quite difficult to see. Yeah, usually from pictures it can be very difficult. And that's one of the things we struggled with too with our customers is I can't, the feel, the tactile qualities of a piece are part of the experience, like everything you're describing. Like I know what you mean. You see something that looks great, but get in your hands and you just don't like using it as much as this one or that one.
Yeah.
Sometimes that just happens, and unfortunately it's very difficult to convey to people from so far away. You just kind of have to hope that they like it as much as we do. But we try to find pieces that we think work well. And there's some, for example, we put something up in, I think, November. And
Mm.
I love the teaware. I love the whole series. I love all her work. But, some of the pieces we received, the lid just didn't quite, like, no matter how you placed it, it was like tilted. So it wasn't a perfect balance in the bowl, even though everything, the fit and finish was great. The artistry is amazing, but just didn't quite fit. So, we had to send back 3 or 4 ones and say, oh, this is, I don't want someone else to get this and then be not satisfied with it. We like to switch for ones that, are balanced and sit properly. And she understood and it's fine. But, things like this, sometimes you have to have it in hand. So, I mean, that for us, that's part of the QC process. So hopefully most people recognize that and can expect a good quality piece from us. But you kind of have to be checking all these little things when they come in, and it's just part of the game, unfortunately. But
There's a full-on QC process of just making sure that every piece that you bring in is sitting right and feeling right and looking right. And I have huge respect for that. That is an incredibly important part of the process. And that I struggle with finding. Another person who I've developed a real trust in is Daniel over at the Chinese tea shop in Vancouver.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've shown you any of his pieces, but this is one. I don't know if you can see that, but it's lovely yixing, and it just lovely shape, and it just sits really nice. And and also I don't know, something about how it pours. And then I lucked out on one that honestly, the picture I didn't like. And until I had it in my hands, I actually didn't really like it. It's this flat pot here. It sits really good. And it just something about the aesthetic when I was looking at it, I didn't like it. And then I was buying some tea from a farmer near Yellow Mountain in Anhui. And she was so excited about this. She's like, "You're gonna love this. It pours so nice. It's so beautiful." And she was like, she doesn't normally sell me teapots, but she was just every once in a while she'll find something that she thinks that I'm gonna really like. And then I showed it to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, that looks great. Let's give it a go." And so we did. And there's something about the way it pours that I just love it. I don't know. It has just a nice. It's better when I have it totally full, but like it just has a nice. There's something to the aesthetic of the pour, And Daniel is much less concerned about the aesthetic of the pour, and he's like, it's going cool.
The quality of the clay, things like that.
It's all good, But I don't know why I get really into that. Maybe I'm just again, it's but
no, I know the feeling for sure. We have we test all our teapots too. We do. There's always one picture of it pouring, so every time we're preparing that and doing the picture, but it also gives you a chance to feel like, oh, does this work well correctly? First of all, does it jam up, or I don't know. Usually it doesn't without any tea, but how does it leak and things like that. But some teapots you just pour that, ooh, that feels good, like, oh, that's quick, or whatever it is, for whatever reason, it's just it's just nice. I suppose there's some more characteristics about the construction that I don't fully understand all that. I'm not it's not necessarily my expertise, but some just feel better. Someone better with physics could explain it all, I'm sure.
Do you ever have that experience where you see something that you don't like and then you work with it and you like it? Because that's what was unique about that particular pot for me. It was like a pot that I looked at and I didn't like it, and then I worked with it. I'm like, this is great. I don't know why I like this so much, but now I seek it out. It's like that really wide open top is so nice for the big, say caked white teas or what have you. Like,
right, yeah.
It ends up being my go-to for sort of lightweight, lots of volume without a lot of mass.
Yeah. But for any teapots, I usually like ones with the bigger lid as well, so you could just fit. If you have any unruly leaves or anything, or big chunks of pour, you can just fit them in there, no problem.
Because otherwise, I'm this oddity. I love to use these AeroPress funnels, and I put them over top of the over top of the little.
Nice.
They were laughing at me at the tea festival, but I like to do that. I just load them.
I can see why they're laughing, but yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, a little bit too much fun. I'm glad I took your advice and went with 8 grams instead of 12. I'm really enjoying this, but it's kind of pushing the boundaries of tannin for me.
I'm not too surprised. Yeah, overleafing those can be yeah, can
Wake up in the morning
on your chest. Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing. That's how you grew the beard, right? It's just
yeah, exactly. This is beard juice right here.
It was just like a spontaneous formation after 12 grams in a Gaiwan. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your favorite piece that you have right now? What is like? Is there a piece that you have, and is it possible to show it that you're really excited about?
I mean, the ones I'm using I already like. This is this was like a test piece that we got from our we have a series called Legend. It's kind of, let's see if I can bring it up here. It's just a good size, but it's a reverse engraved. So I guess it's colored first, and then he does like relief engraving, I guess you call it. So he does dragons and different mythic kind of creatures, but it's very, very unique compared to a lot of the other stuff that we found in Jingdezhen. So we really, really like those, and this was a test piece because it's, I don't know if you can kind of tell, it's like here it's kind of a rougher looking, like it's glazed, but it looks like it's a little bit raw still. So we wanted to see if it took color on. So we tried this for a few months before selling them, just to see like, will it stain really bad and become, I don't know, less pretty to people? But it doesn't, so that's good. You know, because people always ask that, right? They'll be like, oh, is it going to stain this and that? Or if they don't ask, they'll find out, and then they'll maybe not be so happy. So it's some things we kind of test, some things we have to say like, look, it might stain, it might craze, we're not sure. But yeah, that's one of the things, setting up the expectations. This is one of my favorite cups as well. This is.
I was eyeing up a teapot with a similar sort of color scheme where you're doing this kind of antique modern. Yeah, that's still sitting in my shopping cart as well.
The Tsinghua teaware, I mean, Tsinghua is a very popular style, the blue painting on white. Within that, you can get such a range. You can get very, you can get more antique looking stuff, or you can have something modern, or it can be very, like in this case, it's very, very fine painting, very detailed. But this was something that we requested from an artist, and they made the cups. And yeah, they're all fully hand painted with cat warriors. So I mean, this is basically right up our alley.
So I think there's an affinity here on a certain level. You know, like I don't know if you knew this, but we have a cat family. Yeah, it's
okay. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, and similarly, they also run the business, and we just work for them. Yeah, they're more like your standard CEOs, though. They like to kind of laze around and sort of they check on things. They just want to make sure that the food is in a good place and that
big picture. As long as they're getting their cut, it's all good.
Then they're good. They're good. They let us. Let us. But to a point. We start to mess things up, and
same here.
They remind us who's really in charge, right? I love the cat warriors, though. This is cool.
That's one of my favorite, and it's a bigger cup too. So for brewing at home, a lot of times, if I'm brewing by myself, I'll usually use something like this size, and I can just pour straight in the cup, and that's good. So I use that size cup a lot. I think. Then we have a few other in that same vein. I think it's the same. I want to say it's the same person who painted, like this Gongdo Bay.
Oh, very cool.
Panda warrior. So we kind of a similar concept, but with pandas. We just really like them. So it's he's also painted some other ones that we sold with like mythic creatures. So like one of them is this.
Wow.
There's these classic, these old texts or whatever of creatures and animals that could be found. Some of them are real or sort of real, and then some of them are just absolutely not real. But they're amazing. The images, the illustrations are just incredible. And so we've always really liked that. So we've had teaware with that painted on there. I think we released a tea as well that was very limited. It was an expensive one, and we did those creatures on different wrappers. And I really like those. So that cup's a good one too. It's similar size, so again, it's good for solo brewing and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. And you have some other pieces there as well. What's
Oh yeah. You asked me to pick a favorite, and I end up with like 9 pieces in front of
I'm
me.
happy. I love this. I'm so into this. Yeah. Okay.
You saw this one. This is
Yeah. Oh
this is
man.
nice and small. So we use this for Chaozhou brewing a lot, but we have bigger versions and different teapots and stuff. But
I just got back with this little teacups from Daniel.
oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Like 5 mils each of.
Yeah. It's hilarious. I have this sort of Russian doll thing happening in my tea cupboard. It's like
those are probably one of the last to nest.
I think about like 5 years ago, I thought this was a small teacup. And I was just like, I know, right? And I was enjoying, and I was like, yeah, these are my smaller teacups. And then I sort of went and I brought these back from like an antique shop in Japan. I love the
nice.
the nice like green olive. And then I started. Then everything was in these, and these are from Daniel. And then just on the weekend, it's
like that first one looks small in your hand, and then you went to the even smaller one.
Isn't that
we have a few like that, and we use them for gong or for the Chaozhou brewing. Sometimes those come in handy, but it's like once you get under 20 mils, it's really more decorative.
I found at this point I'm just having a really good time. Yeah, I find it hilarious. But I mean, he said it's when you have like a really old tea and not very much left at all, and you want to share with more people than you were expecting. It's there's a situation, where you where you bust out the 5 mils.
It's so hard because everything we sell, we kind of want to keep some too, and then I mean, at this rate, we just end up we put up new things every month almost. So it's at this rate, it's already taken over. We have cabinets full of stuff, and you can't use it all enough. It's a lot of it's decorative or whatever, but
and the tea cupboards too, right? The tea cupboards, you want to do the same thing, and then they just overflow. That's actually why we started doing kombucha. We thought it would be cool to use up some of our older tea, and that didn't work out very well. This is actually a 100-year-old matcha bowl from a collection.
100 years old. Ooh.
Yeah, it's got some weight to it. I love how the potter formed it so that when you pass the bowl and then you turn it in tea ceremony, it has like a really nice shape for drinking out of. It's just it's a lovely. And
where do you find that? Where do you get a 100-year matcha bowl?
That was from the collection of my wife's aunt's tea master.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then this one we got in Mino. So Minoyaki is one of the 6 major pottery regions in Japan, and they do this cool thing where they do the glaze so that there's a stain here that's reflected on the inside, even though that's not real.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's like, I don't know if you can see that.
That's an interesting detail. That's so cool. Yeah.
Isn't that fun? And then this is like this is like a Quebec artist, and they burnt a feather onto.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Onto the bowl, and I love that bowl. And there's something, I don't know if this red comes through, but there's this. Can you see that?
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's just I just can just keep looking at these over and over and over again. Then we have a local artist who does Japanese artist who does like multiple types of clay in the same.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You see it kind of, I just get really excited about them when they have like a really nice shape and they're really interesting to hold, and especially for the process of.
I mean, especially for matcha, it feels so good. Like the cups like are nice for tea and everything, but when you have the bowl in your hands, it's it's a much different experience. It's nice.
We only got 3 of these because the potter ended up having a stroke, unfortunately. And but he was the first potter we bought from locally, and I don't know if you can see the ripples in the side, but it's kind of
that looks nice.
It's got really high sides, and again, the when you hold it, there's like a shape to the top where it makes it really easy to drink out.
Yeah, it has a natural kind of lip.
That was interesting, just learning from you just now, like the way that it sits is one of the things that you look for. in a nice gaiwan, what are some things that you're looking for other than how it sits, out of curiosity?
I mean, ultimately, it's man, it's so subjective. I mean, even that, it's not always something that matters a whole lot. It really depends because it'll probably perform. I mean, most gallons, it's going to perform very similarly, right? You're just hot water goes in, hot water comes out. As long as it gets out, and it will, because it's just you just have to tilt the lid enough. That it should do functionally, it should do everything it needs to.
Right.
I feel like the sitting, most of it's really just comes down to aesthetic and appearance and that kind of thing. I mean, sitting in there is nice if it sits even. Then it does keep the heat in a little bit better. If it's tilted, then it'll have a bit more release. So in that sense, yeah, you might lose a bit more heat, but I mean, a gaiwan is not as good for heat retention as a teapot anyway. So if that's such a big thing, I would say use a teapot. But to me, I really don't care that much. So even things like if the lid sits properly, like we have another series that has like these little animals on top. They're kind of white, but those are also hand formed. So I mean, anything that's like hand formed, not wheeled, will be much more difficult to get to sit properly. So I mean, in things like that, or you mentioned earlier when we're talking the heritage gaiwans,
Yeah.
a lot of that part is also hand formed. So the lid, it's not going to be perfect, in that
Right.
sense, and that's kind of also the point, right? The style doesn't
Yeah.
demand perfection; it demands a certain imitation. So for that case, it's imitating some murals in a cave, so relics. So in that sense, then the imperfection is part of it, and as long as it looks good, then that's what I'm happy with. So I mean, really, I have very very little criteria. Something like this kind of one where it is more, you can tell it's more perfect, where it is a little cleaner lines and all that. Then yeah, we do want the lid to sit better, because I think that's kind of what's expected. But then I don't have a good example here, but like a wood-fired piece or something where it's already has a rustic feel. It's more. I mean, this is a Hohin, so it's gonna sit fine anyways. But the lid, if the lid wasn't totally even, I wouldn't be too worried about it.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about the aesthetics too. That like a clean lines, nice fit, rougher style, a little bit more. It's okay. There's more wiggle room.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, for us, a lot of the teaware, like the functional part, or like how well it performs and extracts the tea and this and that. Like it's it's kind of secondary, to be honest, because even if the teaware is not perfect, it's going to be fine. Like um, I guess when it comes to unglazed teaware, like Easting clays or whatever, then you need to be considering how it interacts with the tea a little bit more. But really, for glazed teaware, like if we're just talking about glazed ceramics, which should not be porous and this and that, it's already mostly providing a neutral experience. Sure, the thickness and the heat retention will affect the brewing a little bit, but I don't think that's. I mean, that's very easy to adjust with your timing and your technique and things. So I don't really, yeah, I don't really worry about that too much. It's mostly about how the appearance, and to us, part of the brewing, part of going through brewing and the process is not just the tea. We're drinking this tea and that's it. It's the enjoyment of what's in front of you. You have music on or you don't. The environment, all these things kind of affect your mood and how you perceive things as well. So I feel like using teaware, using ceramics that we enjoy, that we like looking at, that we think is beautiful, that we appreciate. It's very much part of the experience. It's not just the liquid
Yeah.
in the cup.
It's an art, really, right? Like there's like a very artful component to this. I think that's probably what's really attractive about teaware.
If I were to compare to something like an instrument, you could you could probably sound great playing a $200 Yamaha guitar, whatever. Like if your technique is good, but maybe you want something that has a nice grain or has a certain look. Like when you pick a instrument or something to perform or to play or something, or even just if you're playing at home, you do consider these things, and it does add to the experience, even if you don't hear it.
Like the look of the
Um,
guitar. Yeah,
yeah,
it
color
can
of the
even
paint
be
job,
that.
things like that. Like, you know,
I often argue that placebo is a critically important part of enjoyment. Like really,
absolutely.
what we can't objectively sort of analyze is still really critical. Like, and
Mhm.
I think this was again I had Daniel on the show, and he was saying that you know, it's I asked him, does the teapot make the tea taste better? He's like, well, not always, but it can. He was saying, you know, a good chef chooses the right knife for the right food. But my whole thing for me was, I realized that it would be really aesthetically odd to like make a matcha not in a matcha bowl, and that's okay. And you can still have a lovely matcha in, say, like a stainless steel cereal bowl. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that. But there's also something really beautiful and meaningful in the cultural and art component, and how that adds to the experience, and having the beautiful matcha bowl and how it feels in your hands and all these things. They're not necessarily directly improving the flavor of the matcha if you were to, say, like siphon out parts of the liquid into like some sort of like cupping cup, and you were gonna not know which one came from which, and you were gonna like test and see if you know, it made a difference. I don't know, maybe you could taste it, maybe you couldn't, but I think that it's the aesthetic, the feeling, that whole connectivity, I guess, of it all, it does really make a difference. So you look at these, and you know that I'm not super stoked about this one. Does this one look good through the camera? Is there anything that you
Looks
can
great.
see?
No, it looks fine. It has a lid, it has a bowl. That's basically came with all parts included.
And I don't want to knock this one too bad. It is actually quite pretty. It's just a feeling of yeah, when I pick it up, it's just not something that it's not the Guy one that I reach for, you know. And even though it's a gorgeous, I mean, it's got this, I think it's called the chrysanthemum design, and it's quite pretty. And I like the way that the color changes on the top there. It's got kind of a nice gradation. I don't know.
That's nice.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I guess I'm trying to do the impossible. Learn how I can assess ceramics without actually touching them. But I think that you need to touch them. And I guess it's like that with tea too, right? Like to really get good tea, you need to taste it and then really connect with it. And if you're going to buy tea from somebody else, it's a bit of a relationship building. You buy a little bit and then a little bit more. And then if you find an affinity with that person's perspective on what tastes good and doesn't taste good, then you can continue to buy from them. And I guess this is how things work with the producers as well. You can kind of have this. Yeah. And I assume that that's what's happening with the ceramics then, is there's a.
I would agree. Yeah. That's kind of how it feels. Yeah, you know what to expect, and yeah, definitely with tea as well, though. I mean, there's I just think of, like, for Dansong, we go through a few roasters, but it's the roasters that we pick are the people we really trust their taste. Like, yeah, everything turn out is going to be at a certain level at least. You know, we're going to have favorites within there, or things that stand out, but that's just how you know. Versus if you go to Chaozhou yourself and you want to just try any tea, you just go to any shop or anywhere they're serving or anyone's house, because everyone drinks it there. Oh my God, there's some hit or miss stuff for sure. There's some really bad tea, and they might say it's really good. Oh, you know, this Milan, this is the best, whatever. It's just no. So yeah, it's really about, you know, trusting someone's taste as well, I think, and that's what we try to provide online. But you know, it really is just, it's a game of trust for sure. You know, like, people who bought from us, a lot of them come back, and I think that's because they know or whatever. But otherwise, you know, if it's first time, it's hard. You know, how do you know this is going to be something you enjoy using? How do you know it's going to have a good lid fit or good feel in your hands or right weight to it or this and that? So it's, you know, I'm glad that we have the luxury of being here. And
I have dreams of a JagaSilk Japan where we can just kind of hang out for some months of the year or something, and just
that'd be awesome,
and have like a space maybe where we could share with people and be able to be a little bit more on the ground with ceramics purchases and in some of the pottery regions in Japan. I just think it would just be so cool. I would just love that.
be really cool.
I have a really tangent question for you. So with the is it danchong before I
Dansong.
say like a Milan Xiang? Is that a profile, a roast profile, or is that actually a cultivar, or is it a combination of the two?
I guess you could call it a little bit of combination. It technically it would be just the varietal or cultivar. Milan Xiang is it's a specific cultivar. But it normally is accompanied by a darker roast or higher roast than most other dansong, because that's what brings out more of the honey notes and still retains the orchid fragrance. So the characteristics that's known for are best drawn out with more with additional roastings, additional firings, versus something like yashixiang.
Duck shit aroma.
Yeah, duck shit. Yeah, everyone's favorite. Every once in a while, you get the Reddit post. It's like, is this really a tea? Like, what is this?
We literally have one right now.
Kind of shines at a greener roast, more of the fragrance and qualities that's known for. You wouldn't have that higher roasted. So the varietals will often dictate kind of what the standard processing is. But people will play with that. There's exceptions sometimes.
I've had book knowledge and tea merchants tell me different things, and some of them have been exactly what you're saying, and some of them is not. And what they tell me is that it's not some of them are cultivars like Yashixiang, but Milanshang is a good example of one that is often like after the roast is done, the person, the farmer, the producer will say, you know what, that tastes like what a Milanshang should taste like, and that's why I'm going to call it that, even though I haven't used technically leaves that are the correct cultivar. Is that just like somebody messing, like cheating then? Because I'm so curious, because you're there, right? Like if I was there, I could be like, okay, I want to see the Milanshang cultivar. I want to see how that looks compared to say a Yashixiang, and see both trees and be able to like, I love like we've seen Yabukita and Samidori and say Yamakai, for example. Yamakai is this really thin, long leaf. It's noticeably different than a Yabukita, right? And it would just be so interesting to see a Milanshang from one producer and another and find the similarity and why, like, and also in Phoenix Mountain, they're not really, are they growing from cuttings? They're such old trees. Normally when you grow trees from cuttings, don't they like lose their flavor? I'm sorry, I'm going on a totally wild tea tangent.
No, it's fine.
From ceramics, but you're there and you're interested in this stuff, right? So like
I mean, I would say that's being a bit disingenuous to take a different varietal, process a certain way, being like, well, that tastes like a Milan, and calling it that. I'm pretty sure it should be, whatever varietal it is, that's what it should be called. But maybe there's something I don't know. However, it does sound kind of in line with a lot of, this is kind of the other side, the darker side of the tea industry here, is that if people can produce something that tastes like what or has the qualities of whatever certain tea should, sometimes they'll just call it that. I mean, for pu'er, the obvious, this is the one that always comes up, is like laobanjiang. It's famous, it's expensive, it's ridiculous, but it's very limited. It's only it's a village. It's not a huge area. I mean, they produce quite a bit of tea, but they can only produce so much. But because it's so popular, people will try to recreate a similar tea using nearby ones or blending teas from different areas to get something that's kind of like laobanjiang, and without actually having it yourself, you probably don't have a good reference point of what it should be like. So a lot of people, a lot of producers will just, it's laobanjiang flavor or Bingdao flavor or whatever, and then they just call it that, and they'll market it as whatever, and no one can really prove otherwise. So it gets very messy, and perhaps there's a similar thing in Chaozhou with that, with some of the varietals. That's definitely possible. I've seen it with white teas as well. White teas, they take the Fujian varietals, they grow them in Sichuan where it sprouts earlier and abundantly, and then they'll just process it and be like, well, this is a Fujian white tea and this and that. And like,
they don't even call it an anti-fake. They're just
they won't tell you where it was, actually grown and all this. It's it can be. It's not always.
I guess this happens the world over, right? More sparkling wine from Champagne than Champagne can possibly produce.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a similar thing with different. Darjeeling is another famous example. There's like 5 times more Darjeeling on the world market than there is produced in Darjeeling, and they're trying so hard. Whiskey, Scotch, they're trying so hard to just like make it so that you can only have available what is actually produced. But it's a hard battle. How about a similar thing with the Dahong Pao? And so in Wuyi, people talk about Dahong Pao as if it's actually real, but like my understanding is there's like just a few bushes that are technically Dahong Pao, and then everything else like second generation or third generation, and then even then it's like if you can convince enough people that it is, then it is. there's no real like.
That's basically it. Yeah.
And then Rogui or Shuishan are also sort of similar. And then to actually get something that's, and then it makes me think like how, like the Dancong must be similar then. Like if you can just convince enough people that what you have, but maybe that's how it's always worked. Maybe farmers, it's not really pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's like, oh, this bean is a scarlet runner because it has all of the characteristics of a scarlet runner. And I guess that's why I don't want to just think that people are like tricking me. It would be so interesting to literally see those leaves and be able to learn what they look like and to be able to botanically identify them and be like, okay, that's, you've also convinced me.
Some people can. It's tough even in when we've been in Chaozhou, you can get up close and there's some areas, different varietals growing nearby. But yeah, it's quite interesting to compare the leaves. You can see like the width or the serrated, how the edges are, the veins, things like that. You can look at those and recognize them. I personally cannot because of, Dancong is, we love it and we get into it, but I've only been there a handful of times now, maybe 5 times in my life. So I mean, we got close to the tree,
5 times more than me.
Yeah. So maybe I might have a better chance than some people, and there's some that I could tell maybe, for bigger varietals. But even with then you get into these sub varietals, and there's all these, there's I think there's hundreds when it comes to those. But I mean, the big ones are the most common ones you'll see, like Milanxiang or Yasixiang or Baxian or whatever, Zhilanxiang, Huajixiang, and some of those you can start to recognize, or you can ask them and they'll be like, oh, this is why, or this is how I can tell. Once it's dry and processed, there's no chance at all. No one could tell, I don't think. Maybe once you brewed it and you like opened up the leaf, you could maybe tell. But yeah, it is quite interesting. And same thing with pu'er too. I mean, you can do that. There's different varietals growing within the area, but that it's often just like, well, small leaf, medium leaf, big leaf. You can't, unless there's records of, oh, well, this is actually a varietal from this area that's brought over, then you can know.
Have you ever heard of Taliensis?
Yep. Yeah.
That was for me like new knowledge 2 years ago. I'd never heard of it before, but I guess it's in the world of pu'er, right? Like it's not even really Camellia sinensis. It's very interconnected. But
we accept it as, if it's made from that, it's Yunnan, then we're like, all right, good enough. I mean, technically it should be, Camellia sinensis, Samaka or whatever, but we just kind of accept it.
Another kind of pu'er specialist friend, the same one who does the staple repairs. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pu'er to the People, but Michael Lee, he's a really knowledgeable guy. But he talks about just sometimes they don't even use, like they'll have other plants mixed in there that just look like Camellia sinensis, but they're not technically Camellia sinensis. And that's not even somebody tricking people. It's just the person is misidentified or they've just done it that way their whole life. Oh, we have another boss. Which one's this one?
Oh, okay. This is Chairman.
Chairman. Oh, see? So you have Chewy and Chairman. Yeah. Hello, Chairman.
Yeah. Chewy, Chairman, and Pharaoh's sleeping somewhere. I think he wants to sit on me. All right, come on.
Pharaoh. Yeah, I'm sensing a theme there too. That's
yeah, they all have in Chinese they all have boss names too. Chairman. The other one in Chinese his name would be Dada, which is kind of an affectionate way of calling a leader. We all have to give them proper leader names.
Yeah, it's good. You should give them little bribe packs of like kitty food too. Like it'd be, just.
Oh, they get plenty of bribes. Don't worry.
Oh, good.
Well taken care of.
I think we're coming to the end of the session here, though. I was so stoked to have you on the show today. You've given me exactly what I was looking for. I really appreciate it too. I want to just get your 2 cents on just ceramics analysis, and what that process looks like, because it sounds like it's similar to what I had thought. It doesn't really make anything easier for buying online, but I think it is.
Unfortunately not.
One of the things, and just for those watching too, I want to say that I really like is like the milliliters that you put on there. That's like filled right brimming to the top, right? Like
usually, well, for gallons, it's the usable part, so it's to where right where the lid meets the bowl.
Yeah, sorry.
So
yes, I meant
like what you normally. Yeah. Normally we fill up to, and then for teapots, it's to the top where you can, safely close it. It's not spilling out the tap, the spout or anything like that.
Okay, so the safely closed part, so not brimming to the top. Because
not quite. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm because I'm always interested in that information, and also the weight and the pour time, and I find the pour time to be so important. And you also, I noticed, put when it's like a large ball filter, we're saying goodbye, but the thoughts on metal in the pot? We're okay with metal filters inside the pot?
I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. People have said like, oh, it's not good for tea, or you shouldn't, use it. But I personally haven't noticed a big difference, so I think it's fine.
Okay.
Sometimes you get those pots with like just a single hole, and people will put like a metal filter in there just to make it easier to pour, and I think that's totally fine. I've never had a problem with that. Some people have these hard and fast rules about materials, but I try not to, and just if I like how it tastes, then that's good. But yeah, I don't think there's a problem with metal.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's great. Okay, so you've joined a group of folks that I really respect. So that's great. I personally I have something about, like, I just don't want to see it, but I don't mind that it's there. It's this weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
maybe I'll just, like, face it this way, and then it doesn't affect the tea. Again, it's just aesthetics, And
people say that the silver teapots people swear by. I haven't, to be honest, I don't use them because I don't want to spend that much on a teapot, I guess. But it's those, people say those will interact with the tea, the silver, and that'd be an all metal teapot. So maybe that's the next thing to get into. Maybe that's the further down the rabbit hole.
Guess so. Hey, apparently our guest last week was saying that it enhances the acidity of the tea. So
okay, yeah.
It's more like, if you want to curb that acidity, Yixing, unglazed all the way. You want neutral, of course, glass and glazed, but you want to enhance that acidity, then these silver teapots are a good way to go. So
yeah.
That's the theory. Hypothesis going in. I don't know. I haven't tried it. It'd be really interesting.
That's it. I have to drop $500 on a teapot and test it.
I know. So if people watching want to find your sets and stuff, where should they go? Where can they find you?
Bitterleafteas.com, all one word. Everything is there.
Okay, and it's always changing. I love that. It's like
always changing, just
lovely,
like us.
Lovely, right? Yeah, lovely. Okay, only constant in this world is change, right?
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jonah. Really appreciate you coming on the show for the second time. People watching should go check out the show that you were on last time too. That was a really great conversation. We were brewing up some of your tea, and I do hope to see you in person one of these days. If you're ever in Victoria, even if you come visit family in Vancouver, let us know. Like, we'd love to have tea with you guys. And one of these days we'll get over to China. It almost happened once.
Yeah, that'd be great. Hopefully we get the chance to meet in person and share some tea. But thank you so much for having me, Jared. Really appreciate it. It's great to chat.
Likewise.
A lot of fun.
Okay, you take care, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you take care as well. All right.
Okay.
Bye,
have a great day. Bye. So, anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'm Jared Nyberg, co-owner of JagaSilk. Appreciate you tuning in. Take care. Bye. That was an awesome conversation. Watch previous JagaVision episodes. We put them up every week, whenever we can anyways. And we have different guests on, all sorts of fun stuff that you really need to check out.